Hello, this is Rogers Redding, National Coordinator of Football Officials, and I want to welcome you to this third in the series of our media fan videos for 2018. Once again, we have several interesting plays that I want you to look at, and I hope you learned something from these. Some of the less familiar rules come into play on this video, so I hope it will be instructive to you and hope you enjoy watching these. And I certainly appreciate the feedback we've gotten on the first couple of videos in this series. Okay, let's get to the plays. Here we have an example of a horse collar tackle, and there's a couple of things I want to point out about this play. This is fairly routine, but I've gotten some questions about the horse collar tackle over the last couple of weeks, so I want to point out some things here. First of all, notice that the ball carrier is outside the tackle box. That is part of the rule. If the quarterback, let's say, or any ball carrier is inside the tackle box and he gets pulled down by what would be a horse collar tackle otherwise, it's not a foul. The philosophy is that he's unlikely to be on the run if he's inside the tackle box. And of course, when a ball carrier is at full speed or close to full speed, that's when it's most dangerous. The other thing to notice, and you can see this best on the replay, is that the player making the tackle grabs the collar of the jersey at the back. Now, it doesn't have to be the shoulder pads, it can be the jersey, and recently we added the nameplate area as well. So anything that gets up high, that is the collar of the jersey, the inside collar of the shoulder pads, or the nameplate area, either from the back or from the side, and immediately jerks the runner down, that's a foul for a horse collar tackle. The referee does a nice job of explaining that this is a horse collar tackle because the ball carrier was outside the tackle box.
Personal foul, horse collar tackle, defense number 4. The quarterback was outside of the pocket. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot, automatic first down.
This play shows us a very tight play at the pylon, and the question is whether or not the ball crosses the goal line before the ball carrier steps out of bounds. Now in real time, this looks very much like a touchdown, but when you slow it down, you can see that in fact his foot hits the pylon before the ball crosses the goal line. And so when his foot hits the pylon, that means he's out of bounds, and so that makes the ball dead. So there is no touchdown here, because the ball never crossed the plane of the goal line before he stepped out of bounds. That is, before he hit the pylon. Sometimes near the goal line and near the pylon here, the extension of the goal line can come into play. That's not an issue here because the ball carrier hits his foot on the pylon before the ball crosses the goal line, so there is no issue about the ball crossing the goal line. The ball is dead and is correctly placed somewhere between the 1-yard line and the goal line. So a good example of a tight play at the goal line, a good example of knowing and seeing where the ball is at the time that the ball carrier steps out of bounds, which means in this case, at the time that he hits the pylon. So even though his foot doesn't touch the out of bounds line, his foot touches the pylon, and that's the same as touching the out of bounds line, and so he's out of bounds.
Review determined the runner's left foot touched out of bounds prior to crossing the goal line. The ball replaced at the 1-yard line. First and goal.
This play shows us an example of too many players on the field, in this case 12 players on the field for the defensive team in this field goal situation. The question arises sometimes whether to call a dead ball foul or to let the ball be snapped and then call a live ball foul. And the rule is that if the players are in formation, if there are more than 11 players in the formation, and that formation stays for more than a few seconds, then the officials are to shut the play down, not let the ball be snapped, and call a dead ball foul, which is what happens here. Now, if players are shuffling in and out, running off and on the field, if they're not set in formation, then the ball is allowed to be snapped and the flag thrown if there's still 12 or more players on the field, and you'll deal with it as a live ball foul. Let the play run and then enforce the penalty after the play is over. But if they remain in formation for more than a few seconds, the officials correctly, as in this case, shut the play down, do not allow the ball to be snapped, and enforce the penalty. So this view of it allows you to see all 12 players on the defensive team, and so it's clear that this is a foul for too many men on the field. You can see the two deep officials coming forward, shutting the play down, throwing flags to make sure that they get this stopped before the ball is snapped.
Illegal substitution, defense, 12 players in formation, 5-yard penalty.
Here we have a pass play where the offensive team is charged with a foul for having an ineligible receiver downfield on the play. Now, we usually think of ineligible receivers downfield as a tackle or a guard who goes downfield and the ball crosses the line of scrimmage. And in this case, the player who is ineligibly downfield actually has an eligible number. That is to say, he probably is intended to be an eligible receiver on the play, but we say he's covered up. In other words, he is not on the end of the line, and so therefore he is not eligible to go downfield on a pass. The players who are eligible are players who are wearing the proper numbers on the end of the line, that is on the very outside man on the line of scrimmage, or clearly in the backfield. And this player is neither one of those. He is not on the end of the line. He's covered up by the receiver to the outside. So these two players are on the far right side of the formation, and you can see that the player to the inside is up on the line of scrimmage, so he goes more than 3 yards downfield during the pass, and that's the reason for the flag.
Ineligible receiver downfield, offense, number 10 was covered up, 5-yard penalty, first down.
This play is sort of in the category of if you live long enough, you'll see everything. What you see on this play is that the quarterback drops back to pass. He throws the ball forward. It is batted by a defensive player back to him, and while he is airborne, while the quarterback is airborne, he flips the ball forward to the ground. Now, the referee originally announces correctly that this is simply an incomplete forward pass and there is no foul on the play.
Which could be a forward pass, a second forward
foul
pass.
for an intentional grounding on the play. Right. The quarterback who threw the ball caught it and was still in the air when he threw it forward. It's a legal play, third down.
After some discussion, he comes back to make a second announcement to say that there was a second forward pass from the end zone and therefore safety. I want to make clear here that there are not two forward passes on this play, because in order for there to be a second forward pass, the first forward pass has to be complete, and that doesn't happen. When the ball is knocked back to the quarterback and he controls it while he's airborne and just flips it forward, in order for that to be a second forward pass, he would have to complete the first forward pass, which means he would have to control the ball in the air and then come to the ground and then throw the ball forward. And since that doesn't happen here, this is all one pass, simply an incomplete forward pass. Whether or not he's in the end zone doesn't matter, because a pass can be batted in the end zone in any direction. And that's what happens here. He bats the ball forward. Now, batting in football terms is not exactly the same as you think of it when you're playing with your kids in the backyard. Batting here can mean either not batting the ball like we think of striking it, or simply changing its direction with your hands or arms. And that's what happens here. He flips the ball forward after having it batted back to him by the defensive player, and he does that while he's airborne. He never comes to the ground. It's okay for an eligible player to bat the ball in any direction in the end zone. We allow that for a defensive player, let's say, who goes up to try to stop a forward pass. He just knocks it in any direction. That's not a foul. Other balls in the end zone that are loose, like a fumble or a muff of a kick, cannot be batted in any direction in the end zone. But this is okay because it's a pass. So just to reiterate, there are not two forward passes on this play. There's only one forward pass. It's simply an incomplete pass. No foul for a second forward pass. No safety. Here we have one of those crazy plays where the quarterback is trying to make an exchange with the running back and he muffs the ball, and then there's just a mad scramble for the football. What makes this one, of course, more exciting is the fact that the ball goes into the end zone. Now, you notice that there's several players on the defensive team that touch the ball in the field of play. They muff it, they try to recover. Nobody ever gets possession of it, and the ball goes in the end zone and is recovered for a touchdown. So this is correctly ruled as a touchdown. And I want to make the point that had the ball continued to roll through the end zone and back over the end line, this would have been a safety. This is because the reason for the ball being in the end zone was the backward pass from the quarterback to the running back, who then muffed the ball. Now, during all that scramble for the football, its status never changes. That is to say, it remains a backward pass. Even though the defensive team touches it several times, several players try to recover it, they try to gain possession of it, but no one ever does. And so the ball being in the end zone is because of the backward pass, which means that the offensive team is responsible for the live ball being in their own end zone. And so this is a touchdown, but had it gone through the back of the end zone and out of bounds, it would have been a safety, because what matters is how the ball got into the end zone. And the ball got into the end zone because of the backward pass. Now, had the defensive team done something to the ball, kicking it in the end zone or deliberately batting it into the end zone, that would have been different. They would have been responsible for it being in the end zone. But the offensive team has responsibility because of the backward pass. And so, as I say, this is recovered for a touchdown, but had it gone out of bounds from the end zone, this would have been a safety, and the defensive team would have been awarded 2 points. This next play gives us a good example of offensive pass interference. The receiver and the defender both have equal rights to the ball. This is especially obvious in a case like this where both the receiver and the defender are looking back at the ball. And you can see that the receiver actually pushes the defender to the ground in his attempt to catch the ball. So this is a good example of offensive pass interference. Now, had the defender not been looking back at the ball and done something to prevent the offensive player from getting to it, that would have been defensive pass interference. But again, both players, the receiver and the defensive back, both have equal rights to the ball. And in this case, the offensive player commits a foul, offensive pass interference, by pushing the defender to the ground.
Pass interference, offense number 14. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. I think first down.
This play provides us with a very interesting situation regarding the rules for passes. There are 2 flags on the play, one for the quarterback being beyond the line of scrimmage when he throws the ball. That's an illegal forward pass. And the deep official also has a flag for offensive pass interference. Initially, the referee announces both fouls, that is the offensive pass interference and the illegal forward pass. However, the crew gets together to discuss this and makes a correction for the following reason. Pass interference, either defensive pass interference or offensive pass interference, can only take place during a legal forward pass. And since the pass was an illegal forward pass, there's no such thing as interference, either offensive or defensive interference. So the officials confer and make the correction to say that because the pass was illegal, since the passer was beyond the line of scrimmage, there is no foul for the offensive pass interference, and so only the penalty for the illegal forward pass would be enforced. I also want to point out that the deep official is correct in throwing his flag for the offensive pass interference because he can't tell that the quarterback is beyond the line of scrimmage when he throws the ball. So no mistake there in calling the foul. It's just a matter of correcting the penalty enforcement. So I thought it might be of interest to have this play on here to illustrate the difference between fouls for interference, which can take place during a legal forward pass, but there are no such fouls for interference when the pass is illegal.
Correction. Offensive pass interference, by rule, cannot take place with an illegal forward pass. Therefore, there is one foul on the play, the illegal forward pass, which will be enforced 5 yards from the spot of the foul with a loss of down, bringing up second down.
Well, that's it for this time. We'll be back soon with another set of videos for you to look at. In the meantime, have great games this weekend. And if you're traveling, please be safe.